kitchen, my rules. And hey, some of y'all keep asking where my recipes are. I release them every week, so if you're not subscribed, you might ought to fix that because you might have missed some. Now, I gotta tell you that I'm a realtor. Those of y'all that did not know that, somehow you missed the alert somewhere. I'm a 21-year realtor, and if you know anything about real estate professionals, we're a little competitive. So what does that have to do with my kitchen, my rules? Let me just tell you. Today, I'm going to show y'all my mother's recipe for 5-flavor cake. Now, if you know my mother, you know that cooking is not at the top of her talent list. She is so amazing, but she prefers to be fed instead of to do the feeding, which is fine. I'm still alive, so you could live and raise children even if cooking's not your jam. And the thing we're going to make today is called 5-flavor cake because I'm a band mother also. My son is in the marching band. And they have bake sales to raise money for the band because these children need money, and band is very expensive. If y'all didn't know, it's not as bad as, you know, dance moms or what have you, but it's high. So anyway, I was at the bake sale and they were selling somebody else's cake, and it was called 6-flavor cake. And I said, now hang on just a hot minute. This tastes suspiciously like my 5-flavor cake. So I did eat it, and I ate 2 pieces to make sure that it was exactly just like the one I had fixing to show y'all, and it was. But then my competitive nature kicked in, and I said, you know what? Mine's better than this. I'm just gonna have to win, and that's why I've decided, for the sake of my son's high school bake sale, I'm gonna fix my cake, and dagnabbit, we'll just have to see whose is the best. So if you have a 5-flavor cake or a 6-flavor cake at your house, you go on and make it, and you can test it against mine, and let's see who wins. So here we go. The first thing we're going to do to make this cake, as you can already tell, because y'all are very advanced viewers and makers of things at home, is get our cake pan properly prepared, and y'all know that means being greased and floured. And this is my Wilton pan that I think y'all saw it in, I don't know, in 2020, last year, when I made it for my mother's birthday. And we're using the pretty pan because it's the competition, y'all. We can't use the regular tube pan to win a competition. So let's get the Crisco in here and get it greased up. I reckon you could use the spray stuff too if you're in a desperate place. I won't judge you. But, you know, again, we're going to have to win this competition. So we're doing our very, very best. That's why I'm still wearing my work clothes, frankly. And also because I forgot that we had this bake sale. Let's just be honest. When you're a realtor mom, life just tends to run around on you. So we've added some flour here. Okay, now that we have a properly prepared cake pan, and if you don't know how to prepare a cake pan properly, you should go back and see some of the earlier episodes where I'll show y'all in fine detail. Now, while I make my cake batter, I'm going to preset my oven to, actually not 350. See, I tricked y'all there. We're going to set it to 3 1/4. This is what is called a barbecue style cake. You're gonna cook it low and slow. Hey! All right, so you need 2 sticks of butter, and do not use margarine or oleo, or I think this might be butter, but it's not. I don't know why anybody cooks with fake butter. Use the real thing. I mean, don't short yourself. You're gonna eat cake, eat it the right way. Because y'all know what they say, right? You can eat right, exercise, and die anyway. And that's something we all need to remember in a world that seems to have lost its ever-loving mind, that you all gonna die. I mean, life itself is terminal. You should learn how to enjoy it, love more, and live more while you can. And I believe that's when all God's people said, amen, right? Amen. So we have 2 sticks of butter in the mixer. The next thing we're gonna add is a 1/2 cup of Crisco. I'm gonna have to keep walking off camera today because apparently I'm not thinking straight while I get my act together here. Now, you know I usually use the butter flavor Crisco, but I didn't have any in the cupboard. And you know how we roll in my kitchen, my rules. We learn how to make do. So we're gonna put a 1/2 cup in. For those of y'all that don't know how to measure, it's about this much and that much more again. So 2 big old tablespoon size scoops will be, well, that's not quite half. 3. Just saying, 3 is about the amount you need. I don't recommend that you use your bacon grease from up under your sink for this because this is a cake, so we can use that for other things, but let's just make sure we use fresh grease for the cake. That sounded terrible when I said it out loud, but for real, it's good. All right, the next thing we need is our sugar, and we need 3 cups. So let me just get my cup. And lest I forget, did I mention that we only use Dixie Crystals in Lee Brown's kitchen? And I will pick a fight with you over that. If y'all didn't see the episode from last year where Steve Brown made the accident of going to the Target or the Walmart or something and bringing back some off-brand mess, and frankly, it's just a miracle that we survived any of that. But here we are, 1, 2, 3 cups of Dixie Crystals. You know it's been around since 1917, and any sugar that can survive that long is really good. And check the calorie count, legit. If those of y'all that like to use sucralose and some of these made up sweeteners would look at the ingredients, you'd be as horrified as you should be. You'd also find out that there's very few actual calories in real sugar and your body knows how to process it. So be smart when you use your sweets. That's all I'm trying to say. And I'm kind of hoping, hint, hint, that DixieCrystals.com, hint, hint, will put this recipe on their website, hint, hint. What? See, now here we go. So we're gonna put our mixer on a nice low speed here just to mix up the sugar and the butter until it's creamed, right? Cream your butter and sugar. You don't need a stand mixer for this. A hand mixer will work fine. Some of y'all would do just as well with a beater or with a fork because you're advanced like that. The next thing we need is 5 eggs. So look, this is like when you're making things on the fly, sometimes you're just not gonna look like old Rachel Ray and Martha Stewart and the Perfect People. You're probably gonna look more like Lee Brown than you would care to admit. So we're gonna get our 5 eggs here. Now, if you're like me and your chiropractor gives you eggs, sometimes he sends over duck eggs. Those are fantastic in some recipes, but if you're baking with precision, well, I really don't know how much precision I'm using since I just measured my Crisco with a spoon, but all right. Egg size is different between ducks and chickens, and y'all know what that means. You knew I gotta say it, right? Size matters. So we need to gently beat our 5 eggs here. We don't need to do anything wild with them. We're not trying to create any kind of a froth or meringue or any of that. You don't have to separate the whites from the yolks. We're just gonna do a basic bust up the yolks beat here, make a nice little soupy soup. And then after we make our soupy soup of eggs, we're gonna toss it right in to the mix gently. Now here's what we're gonna do. If you have watched baking shows before, you know it's actually pretty important to alternate your wet ingredient with your dry ingredient. And in this case, that is 3 cups of white flour. Now we're using White Lily because it's the lightest flour ever invented by the Lord. And I don't know how he taught somebody how to make White Lily, but here we are. So we need 3 cups. And the way that I do this is fairly simple. We're just gonna do a cup, and then we're gonna do some of the eggs, and then we're gonna do another cup and some of the eggs, and then another cup and some of the eggs, and then we'll start tossing some milk in there. So you do not have to sift. This does not require cake flour. It's fairly low maintenance. In fact, for those of y'all that don't have a great track record with baking, this might be your recipe. And I will just tell you, the evidence of that is that this is one of my mother's specialties, and she's got, like I said, lots of talents, and mixing and baking ain't really one of them. So let's just mix that in. Don't overmix. This is very, very important that as you are mixing, as soon as you get the ingredients in there together, that you take a break and then mix some more in there. Letting it go and go and go is what makes your stuff tough, y'all. You might not know that. You thought you were just being extra cautious to mix in those eggs, but you're making it tough. So let's put in another cup of flour. And actually, since we're using all-purpose flour here, now if you use self-rising, you're probably gonna have a different kind of cake altogether, and the ladies at the church will make fun of it, okay? You actually need a half a teaspoon of baking powder so it will rise. So let's get our baking powder. Here we go. We got our Clabber Girl. What? Hey, Clabber Girl. That's right. So let's get us a half a teaspoon of that. And for those of y'all that are watching this and not cooking along, while I'm sitting here wandering around my kitchen, y'all could, have you a beverage or call a friend or look at the Facebooks or something. I don't really know what y'all do with your spare time while you stare at these videos, but I love you anyway. And actually, to activate that baking powder, you need a wee tiny bit of salt. Just don't do so much that it's going to taste like a salty cake, although that actually sounds good. Maybe I should do some kind of a salty cake. Maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon. You don't need a ton. Let's make sure we got our mixer locked down and get that going again. So again, that's remember 3 total cups of all-purpose white lily alternated with your eggs. We got our little bit of baking powder in there, a little bit of salt. Let's put in the last of the eggs. We're gonna put in the last of the flour. And we're gonna add 1 cup of milk. I do that at the end because I like to make sure my eggs and my flour have gotten in there to be friendly correctly. So, and I keep locking and unlocking because I feel like KitchenAid should have made the bowl where it sticks out a little bit further. Do y'all ever feel that way? It's kind of aggravating. So let's lock that bad bear back down and let me get a measuring cup. Now, one thing you should know, if I never told y'all before, there is a difference. Whoop, wrong direction. There's a difference in a dry measure, which are these cups, and a wet measure. And if you don't know the difference, then you need to play along when your kids do chemistry class and physics class, because there are actually differences. And so that's why you want wet measures and dry measures. Get yourself 1 cup of milk. And look, I'm afraid to talk and pour that in at the same time because y'all know I don't like my kitchen to be disgusting and filthy. So let's put that on a nice little low here. Slursh. And now we're mixing. Now while that's getting slurched up there, we get this drop of milk that jumped on my floor because that's how we roll. And now we're gonna add the 5 flavors. So, I'm pretty sure that when this recipe was invented, it was because somebody said, oh, look at what all I have in the cupboard. Let's use everything we have. So we're gonna start with some vanilla extract, and I'll dump a little bit of that in there. By the way, when you're buying vanilla extract, you'll see there's some that have color, some that don't. Some are imitation, some are natural. You know which one you should buy. The natural one, right? I'm gonna use some almond extract, and if you're a McCormick person, you're probably gonna be like, hey, we love Lee Brown today. You want about a teaspoon of each, but I didn't have about a teaspoon in there, so we just used what we had left. We've got some lemon extract, and you could use fresh lemon juice and replacement for the lemon extract, but we're using lemon extract today because I can. And then we have imitation butter, and I know that we already put butter in here, butter people. There's never enough butter. Let's just all say amen to that. About a teaspoon of that. And then we have rum extract, and that's actually from the Corning collection. Don't ask me where that came from. That's been in my cupboard for a while. Now, I've seen some recipes that call for coconut extract, and I imagine you could mix and match a little bit. There's orange extract you could put in there and just change it up a little bit. Keep it on a low setting when you're mixing this up, just so you can keep it from splashing around everything. That's all your recipes, y'all. And now what we're gonna do is take this beautiful batter as soon as it mixes in, pour it into our nicely prepared pan, and in roughly an hour or thereabouts, we're gonna have a great cake. All right, so I was gonna remind y'all that as you finish mixing things up, now is when you make a holler in your house and say, hey, anybody wanna lick the beaters? And if you're a parent who does not invite people to lick the beaters, you really should, because there's something special about being the one in the house who gets to lick the beaters, and you should have to earn that privilege, frankly. And for those of y'all that are now gonna at me and say, but Lee Brown, there's raw eggs in there. Settle down, life entails risk, y'all, for heaven's sakes. Buy good eggs from a farmer, get fresh stuff. If you get sick, throw up and get over it. I mean, right? Are we taking away too many pleasures in life? I'm just gonna throw that out there, and if that makes y'all get aggravated with me, that's on you, not me, hey? Okay. So now that we've got our batter prepared, our beater is ready to be licked and enjoyed. Move it out the way here. And yes, I did just totally scrape as much of the goodie off of there as I could, because you should. And as usual, cakes always sound like a lot of work. They look like ingredients, but then you get this beautiful batter. We're gonna pour it in here. And the ribbons will go away, by the way, when you bake. And why did I buy this fancy cake pan from Wilton? I will tell you, I bought the fancy cake pan because sometimes it feels good to be fancy. See, just like I wear my pearls every day. Also because they match everything, let's just be honest. But when you make a cake in a pretty cake pan, it's gonna feel a little bit more special when it comes out. And our oven is ready. And when we put it in, just remember that it's actually gonna be done when your toothpick comes out clean. Very scientific stuff. And I totally drip some down the middle of the pan. I better take care of that. I hate for it to bake in the middle of the little hole in the pan. Check it real quick, make sure I got it all, you know, because you have to be thorough, see, if I'm gonna win this internal competition in my head. All right, there's your before. Now you see after here in about an hour. I'll see you in a second. So now while my 5-flavor cake is in the oven, I want to tell y'all there is a secret on my mother's recipe card here for a glaze. I'm not making the glaze today because this is for a bake sale and that's going to make it kind of sticky for people to eat out of a Ziploc bag with their hands. But if you want to make the glaze, here's what you need. 1 cup of Dixie Crystal sugar, a 1/2 cup of water, and then 1 teaspoon each of those very same 5 flavors. After you cook that at a low heat to let the sugar get dissolved, just pour it on top of that cake while everything's warm. It'll soak right into all the pores and it's magical. So do that when you have company or if you're going to a church potluck or something, but for a bake sale, maybe leave the glaze off. And I'm gonna tell y'all how much I'm tickled by my mother's recipe card. Her instructions are very important. See where it says, prepare as usual. This from a woman who doesn't cook a whole lot. It's a good thing for y'all. You have Lee Brown to watch all these instruction videos and wait till you see this when it's done.